And as President Biden works to push his massive spending bill through Congress, claiming the richest Americans will foot the bill, he's spending, as Jackie said, the holiday at a billionaire's compound. So is, quote, middle-class Joe out of touch with everyday Americans? Let's bring in Stephen Moore, former economic advisor to President Trump and founder of the Committee to Unleash Prosperity. Steve, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for being here. You just heard Jackie's report. Was this perhaps an oversight? What are the optics here?
Well, Griff, great to be with you. Happy Thanksgiving to you, too. And by the way, I hope the president has a happy Thanksgiving as well, and everyone. Look, maybe this wasn't the best optics, but the president can have his Thanksgiving dinner wherever he wants. I think the bigger problem here is what's happening with the middle class and this rising inflation, Griff. And there just doesn't seem to be a solution coming out of this White House right now. In fact, they're pitching a $3 trillion debt bill that would actually make the inflation worse. The people are feeling this. You know, the interesting thing about when you have higher inflation, which we do right now, it's running at about 6%, Griff. People feel, you know, the spin from Washington and the spin from economists don't matter because people feel it every single day. I notice, Griff, I don't know if you do, when I go to the gas pump now, people are grumbling about how much they're paying. It's $20 more to fill up your tank this Thanksgiving than it was a year ago.
Yeah, and talking about feeling the pain, let's show our viewers how much you're paying for that turkey. Now, we know that staples goods at the grocery store are up 14%, but the turkey itself, a 16-pound turkey, is 24%. I was telling our producers on a call about an hour ago, I got a 16-pound turkey. It cost me $68, Steve. This is real pain from the grocery store to the gas pump. How long does it last, and how damaging is it to this administration?
Yeah, you know, you're right about that. And you've got that graphic up there, 24% higher for turkey prices this season. And Jen Psaki, I don't know if you noticed it, she said, oh, people are paying just $1 more for a 20-pound turkey. I'm like, boy, her math, I don't get the math on that because it's, you know, it's $4 or $5 or $6 more for these turkeys now, based on how big that bird is. As I said earlier, I just don't think this administration has a cure for the inflation. They continue to talk about more debt and more spending from Washington, which means flushing more money in the economy. That could make the inflation worse. And when it comes to gas prices, you know, yesterday in his statement, President Biden kept talking about all these strategies he has for lowering gas prices, but what he didn't bring up is all the policies he has in place that are raising gas prices, Griff. For example, killing pipelines, canceling existing pipelines, the fact that they canceled drilling in Alaska, that we're not doing more permitting of lands. You know, there's no country in the world, Griff, that has more oil, gas, and coal and energy resources than the United States. We are blessed with this incredible amount of energy and natural resources in this country. And I think people are getting a little frustrated. We're not using them. We're not going after them. And that's making us, by the way, that's making us more dependent on Saudi Arabia, Russia, OPEC countries that aren't friendly to the United States.
Steve, before we run out of time, you mentioned Jen Psaki. I believe the moment you were talking about is when she was asked a question by our own Peter Doocy. Take a look at this. I think this is the moment you meant.
Right.
Watch.
Yeah.
Message does it send to the middle-class Americans President Biden says that he's trying to help, who are struggling this week to cover the cost of the most expensive Thanksgiving ever, that the president is going to take a few days off at a billionaire's compound in Nantucket?
Any increase in prices is something the president is concerned about. But I just want to be clear that there are abundance of turkeys available. They're about $1 more for a 20-pound bird, which is a huge bird if you're feeding a very big family.
So from the White House briefing room to fancy Nantucket, are they failing to, quote, read the room, if it were?
Well, I don't know how she came up with her math there because people are paying a lot more than $1 more for a turkey. But then, you know, another incident happened this week where Jennifer Granholm, who is the energy secretary, was asked how much, how much energy do we consume in terms of barrels of oil a day? Mm-hmm. And she said, I don't know. And, you know, when you have a secretary of energy who doesn't know what our energy policies are, just like Pete Buttigieg doesn't know anything about, he's the transportation secretary, he doesn't know anything about planes, trains, and automobiles. I mean, it's a problem. I think you have people who are a little bit in Washington out of touch.
Well, we'll see if that SPR release does bring prices down. Steve Moore, thank you very much, and have a very happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, you too, Drift. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.